Who is Vladimir Putin? In the world of global power, few names command as much fear, respect, and controversy as Vladimir Putin. For over 2 decades, he has sat at the center of the world's largest nation, steering it through economic collapse, internal wars, and a head-on collision with the West. To some, he is the savior who pulled Russia from the ashes of the Soviet Union. To others, he is the man who dismantled democracy to build a 21st-century autocracy. But who is the real Vladimir Putin? How did a former KGB officer become the world's most powerful person, according to Forbes? And how has his reign reshaped the very map of our planet? Today, we go beyond the headlines to analyze the era of Vladimir Putin, from the chaos of the 90s to the front lines of Ukraine. To understand Putin, you have to understand the trauma of 1991. When the Soviet Union collapsed, Russia didn't just lose an empire, it lost its identity. The 1990s were a decade of Wild West capitalism. Hyperinflation wiped out savings, and oligarchs, ultra-wealthy businessmen, essentially ran the government. Enter Vladimir Putin. On New Year's Eve, 1999, President Boris Yeltsin unexpectedly resigned, naming Putin as acting president. Putin's message was clear: stability over liberty. His first mission? Taming the oligarchs. He offered them a deal. Keep your wealth, but stay out of politics. Those who refused, like Mikhail Khodorkovsky, ended up in prison or exile. By centralizing power, Putin brought a sense of order that many Russians, tired of poverty and chaos, desperately craved. During his first 2 terms, high oil prices fueled a massive economic boom, lifting millions into the middle class. For the first time in years, Russia felt like a superpower again. As Russia grew stronger internally, Putin's gaze turned outward. His biggest grievance? NATO. Putin has long argued that the West broke a gentleman's agreement not to expand the military alliance toward Russia's borders. The turning point came in 2007 at the Munich Security Conference. In a fiery speech, Putin slammed the United States for its unconstrained use of force and signaled that Russia would no longer play by Western rules. Then came the actions. In 2008, Russia intervened in Georgia. In 2014, following the Maidan Revolution in Ukraine, Russia annexed Crimea, the first time a European state's borders were redrawn by force since World War II. These moves weren't just about land, they were a signal that Putin viewed the post-Cold War era as a mistake he intended to correct. Domestically, Putin constructed what analysts call the vertical of power. Every level of government, from local governors to the media, answers to the Kremlin. While Putin maintains high approval ratings, critics argue this is achieved through the systematic removal of dissent. Investigative journalists and political rivals have faced imprisonment, poisoning, or worse. The world watched as the opposition leader Alexei Navalny was targeted, jailed, and eventually died in a remote prison colony. In 2020, Putin initiated constitutional changes that reset his term limits, potentially allowing him to stay in power until 2036. This soft autocracy has turned Russia into a state where elections are held, but the outcome is rarely in doubt. February 24th, 2022. The world woke up to the news of a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. This was the ultimate culmination of Putin's geopolitical vision. He claimed it was to denazify Ukraine and prevent NATO expansion, but most of the world saw it as a war of conquest. The consequences have been staggering. Russia has been hit with unprecedented Western sanctions, cutting it off from global banking and technology. However, if the West hoped to isolate Putin completely, they were mistaken. Putin has pivoted east. Russia's alliance with China has reached new heights, and countries across the global south, from India to Brazil, have maintained trade ties. Through the BRICS alliance, Putin is actively trying to build a multipolar world, a global system that doesn't revolve around Washington, D.C. or the euro. But at what cost? Thousands of lives lost, a massive brain drain of Russia's youth, and an economy increasingly dependent on wartime production. Vladimir Putin remains one of the most polarizing figures in history. To his supporters, he is the defender of Russian civilization against a hostile West. To his detractors, he is a dictator who has sacrificed his country's future for a dream of imperial restoration. As we look toward the future, the big question remains: what happens after Putin? He has spent 25 years ensuring there is no clear successor. When he eventually leaves the stage, he will leave behind a Russia that is more isolated from the West than at any time since the Cold War, but also a Russia that has forced the world to acknowledge its power. One thing is certain: the era of Vladimir Putin has changed the course of the 21st century. Whether for better or worse, the world we live in today is the one he helped break and rebuild. Outro. What do you think? Has Putin's strongman strategy worked for Russia, or is the country heading toward a long-term decline? Let us know in the comments below. If you found this analysis helpful, hit the like button and subscribe for more deep dives into global affairs. Thanks for watching.